Hello everyone, and welcome to this Alliance Live webinar brought to you by the Health and Social Care Alliance Scotland. As many of you will know already, Alliance Live is a series of webinars and podcasts which seeks to shine a spotlight on integrated and innovative working taking place across health and social care in Scotland. My name is Carmen Paputsadutu, and I'm the Digital Health and Care National Lead with the Alliance. And in my role, I often take part in various conversations around how health and social care services could be improved. And one common denominator in all of these conversations is the recognition that we need to share personal stories to receive better care. And what we mean by this is that services need to be informed and shaped by the voice of lived experience, by data provided by citizens, and by what matters to each of us individually. To discuss this theme, I am joined today by a great panel of speakers with a rich and varied experience. So I am joined by Sam, who is a carer for her son Shane and has been involved in the development of the About Me standard with the PRSB. I am also joined by Alex, who is a director at Mydex, a community interest company which aims to equip individuals with the tools to collect, store, and use and share their data to better manage their lives. Kat is the project's development lead at PAMIS and has been involved in the co-creation of the digital passport alongside family carers. And Jenny is a family carer and deputy chair of the board of governance for PAMIS. So thank you very much to all our speakers, and it's really great to have you here with us today. The way the session will work is that we will have a brief presentation from each of the speakers, after which we will discuss some questions around this topic. And to kick us off, I would like to invite Sam.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam, and firstly, I would like to share with you just a short video about my family, in particular about my wonderful son, Shane. I hope you enjoy it. I've got two sons. Daniel is almost 18 and Shane, who's 21. He's very funny. You know, I think about 3 years ago we started to develop this really fun sense of humour, and he's also the most affectionate person I know. It's so lovely when I go in and call him in the morning and the first thing he does is give me a big hug. He's really proud when he's able to do something on his own, and sometimes he'll push me away because it's like, no mom, this, you know, I can do this myself. And sometimes he'll sit on the top stair and then he'll call me. Shane can say mama, it's the only word he can say. And what he wants is me to sit beside him and give him a hug. And it just starts my day in such a positive way. After that, Shane goes to his annex. He's there between the hours of 9 and 4 every day, and he's supported by Max, and at various times during the week we have a 2-to-1 support which enables Shane to access the community safely. Shane starts every day with a tack pack session. This is really great for Shane to have his sensory needs met, and he always feels happy and relaxed afterwards. 3 times a week Shane does what we call the big walk. The walk is up to 3 miles long. On the way Shane will stop and smell flowers, touch trees, and some days he will pop into our local co-op and buy his ingredients for a baking activity. After Shane was born, about 25 hours later he started to have a seizure, and he ended up in intensive care. Shane had meningitis. He spent a little over a month in hospital, and on discharge he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. When Shane was 8 months old, he got diagnosed with optic nerve damage and cortical visual impairment. Shane is registered blind, and cognitively he's about 2.5 to 3 years old.
Ready, Shane? Yeah.
As a parent of a young person with complex needs, it's really important for us that those who work with Shane, they understand him as a person. Yes, his diagnosis and his health needs are important, but they're not as important as what's important to Shane. They have to see him first and his disability second. Before we employ new people, we always share Shane's Wiki. Shane's Wiki is very comprehensive and it covers lots of information about our family, Shane's health needs, but most importantly about Shane as a person, what he likes, what he dislikes, what makes him happy, how he interacts with people, and they get a really good picture and an insight into how best to support Shane, but also when not to support him. Just pulling up a zip on his coat, that's independence for him because it's a skill he's learned, and we don't want somebody doing that for them. This is the type of information you're not going to get on a medical report, but by having everything in one place, new people coming to work with Shane will get that insight before they start. I'm almost like preparing for the future, preparing for a time that I really find quite hard to think about, a time in the future when I'll no longer be here. Having all of that information in one place means that when I'm no longer here, that can be passed on to whoever looks after Shane. I'm really proud and happy to say Shane is one of the happiest people I know. Now that his needs are met, he's stimulated, he's surrounded by people who love him, and he's supported by those who really understand him as a person and what's important to him. I hope you enjoyed the film. And now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Professional Records Standards Body and their About Me standard. During 2020, I was working with the Professional Records Standards Body as their citizen lead on health and social care standards. As you can understand, this role has been really important to me, especially as Shane's mum. It has been really important for me to drive change in record standards by promoting themes that patients really care about. The Professional Record Standards Body develop information record standards so the right information is shared whenever and wherever care is needed. They do this using highly structured and now a highly standardized approach, which makes good use of lay experience, people like myself, and professional expertise from those in hospitals like doctors and nurses. Key to the PRSB's role is its independence from funding organisations. It does, though, undertake work on behalf of government bodies and medical professional organisations. It works on a commissioned basis, so standards are established in an objective way, which is really important. Important to this work is a partnership scheme with professional and care delivery organisations, including Royal Colleges, social care organisations, patient representative groups and vendors. These organisations between them represent over 750,000 health and social care providers in the UK. The PRSB developed new standards covering 5 areas. The first one was about urgent referral from care home into the hospital. The second one was a hospital referral back into the community to local authority. The third one was around the information that local authorities hold about individuals. The fourth one was a care homes view, giving care homes access to specific information. And the fifth one was About Me. About Me provides a focal point to integrate health and social care around the person, informed by what is most important to them, providing a natural platform for a unified, multidisciplinary approach, irrespective of where the person is located, whether in hospital, care home, as most people are in their own home. Both health and social care organisations are essential to this model of integration, and technology can bring them together. During our consultation, I met Tony, who's pictured there with his son Matthew, and I want to share a quote from Tony, which really had an impact on me. Tony says, "It isn't what the individual has, it is the individual themselves that counts. That is why About Me is important. Many professionals appear to be trying to fit people into systems. About Me is turning that around so that systems have to fit around the person. It is for the service to adjust to the person, not the other way around. Following the endorsement of the Health and Social Care Standard, I supported RIX at the University of East London to develop their About Me template following the implementation guidance of the standard. You can read all about this in the PRSB's May newsletter on their website. For me, being the citizen lead in the development of About Me was only the start of the journey. For it to really count, we have to drive implementation. I'm delighted to confirm that one of the first community and mental health trusts to implement About Me is Oxley's NHS Foundation Trust, which covers health services across my local area in Bexley, Bromley, Greenwich and Kent. They launched their patient health record in January of this year. Back in July last year, in 2020, I learned about the Trust's new development plans and I spoke to their project lead about including About Me information within the record. Following the PRSB's About Me implementation guidance, they developed their About Me section, which is held in the care section. We can all play a part in influencing the adoption of standards. I've just shared with you how when I found out about my local trust developing a patient health record, I just had a conversation with the project lead. How can you help spread the word about the About Me standard? And that's it from me.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I would now like to hand over to Alex.
Hello, good morning. I'm Alex Stobart. I work with a social enterprise, a community interest company in Scotland called Mydex. And as Sam has been describing, many of the principles and the values that she and Shane and others would like to have in their life apply to me and to those people who live and work with Mydex. I think what we heard was about how it's so important to have a personal view of the truth, which is what the citizen can give and can be supplemented by others, and that can meet the clinical view of the truth. And really then you can work together. And these combinations of personal stories and clinical and professional excellence enable the citizen to be the point of integration. And there isn't really much other point for integration than to help citizens live healthier lives, better lives. And so I think everything that the PRSB is doing is to be commended, and look forward to talking about it and the others later.
Thank you very much, Alex. I will now hand over to Kat and Jenny.
So I'm Kat Jamieson. I am a learning disabilities nurse working for PAMIS. And PAMIS are a third sector organisation supporting people who have profound and multiple learning disabilities and their family carers. And PAMIS have always been about amplifying the voices of people who have learning disabilities and making sure that they are included in all the decision-making processes and have a voice within any care decisions that are made about them. Around about 15 years ago now, PAMIS were doing the paper hospital passports and paper communication passports to help families manage the huge amount of information that they have to repeat to multiple different people coming into their home over and over again. It's such an onerous task, particularly whenever somebody is just had a diagnosis of an intellectual disability. It's a huge amount to take in. Families just don't have the bandwidth, the mental bandwidth to be able to deal with it. And one of our families came to us and said, why can't we just record everything and use video and use pictures and find a way to actually just be able to hand this over to somebody else so that I'm not having to say the same thing all the time. I don't need to be reminded of my child's health needs continually, or be put in the position of being a teacher all the time. I just want to enjoy being a parent. And so PAMIS were fortunate to attract funding from Scottish Government to develop the PAMIS Digital Passport. And what it is it's an individually held record that is put together by the families with support from PAMIS in order to use a multimedia approach to show how somebody lives their life, navigates within the world. It's the way that they access digital and speak to the world around them. Many of the people that PAMIS support have quite complex communication needs, and to be able to actually speak for themselves using this and show other people how to support them is hugely important in their lives. So it allows people to build that picture separate to this is me and I have a disability. The people that we support tend to present very much as people in a wheelchair who need particular means of care and that type of thing. But behind all that is the person, and the passport allows that to happen. One of the most important things is that people themselves who have a profound disability find it really difficult to have their voices heard within the massive landscape of health and social care in Scotland just now. People just don't understand the subtle things that affect somebody whenever they have a profound intellectual disability. The fact that they need 24-hour care from the people around them, the fact that they need support to interpret what they are needing. And all of this is absolutely exhausting, not only for the person themselves, but for their family carers. It can be a real challenge. It can mean that there's difficulties in recruiting confident and capable staff to be able to sort of stay with somebody as well in order to support them. And so using a really, really simple solution that was thought up by the families 15 years ago is, it makes it relevant. It's simple, it's relevant, and it actually works in the real world. So I would like to hand over to one of PAMIS's family carers, Jenny Whinnett, who's going to tell you how Liam uses the digital passport to navigate his world.
Well, this is Liam, and Liam is a smashing young man with profound and multiple learning disabilities who enjoys the outdoors, smart sport, his music, and especially dancing. He's a real rock star. He lives with me under shared lives scheme and sees his family generally every other weekend and at holiday times. Liam has a very rare syndrome, with only approximately 500 people in the whole world with the Emmanuel syndrome. And this causes Liam to have no verbal communication. However, Liam is really communicative. Liam's digital passport contains sections that discusses many aspects of his daily life, such as information on his family, his likes and dislikes, and importantly, his care needs. This information would normally be very easily shared by a young man with verbal communication when he meets new friends or colleagues. But for someone like Liam, who lacks that ability, the digital passport has been created for him to be more equally included in the community, both socially and for his health needs. Right now, I would like to show you how Liam leads teaching people involved with him in one aspect of his healthcare. Importantly, how to fit his sleep system. This short video takes the place of up to 32 pages of information and actually is easier to understand as it is visual learning.
Okay. Liam. Okay. Yeah. Okay, come on then. I know. Okay, thank you. Come on. Thank you. Okay, come. Sit. Over to the bed. Thank you. Over to your bed. That's it. There we go. Right. Right, Liam. going to show how we put you in your sleep system to make your body nice and straight. So first of all, we want his legs nice and straight, and we need to make sure that you're lying nice and straight. Thank you. Going to put your knee block in now, Liam. Right.
Do you want to handle that?
Yes, please, if you can get his other leg. And we're going to put it through. And we're going to put it right up so it's around his knees. Put that in. And then we put the elastic, this is elastic stays that keep them in place. That's right, now we check again, make sure it's keeping his legs apart and he doesn't cross his legs. Right, we're going to look and see that you're straight again. Well done, Liam. Good boy. Thank you. What we're going to do is these two wedges are going to go in. I'm going to have one here and one by his hip, but they have to go in under the sheet, the air mattress, and in between the two Velcro sheets, because that will keep them in place. So I need to get this as far up and put the wedge right there into his chest area, and you bring it up and down onto the Velcro, so that will stop it from slipping and moving. And then this larger one, because Liam tends to try and roll over in the night onto his stomach, so putting in a larger wedge actually has prevented him to do that and keeps him in a nice stable position. So I put this one at his hip, and this prevents him from trying to roll over onto his stomach. So that's that one, and it's nice and soft because it's quite tall, so it's not, the edge of it isn't against him. So again, this side has to go under the sheets, under the air mattress, and in between the two Velcro sheets. But what we do is I pull the sheet this way because we're wanting Liam. We want to pull him this way so that we are stopping the rotation of his chest, which is going towards the left side, and we're wanting to bring it back over to the right. So in doing that, by pulling him this way, we are pulling him the way we want him to go. We want his chest to go. So that's the first one. Again, that's the second one. We'll go round where his hip, yeah. And the third one, actually, if we can bring this one a bit further up, please, Jimmy. That's right, up there. And that one. And then that one will go down where his hip is. Yeah, you need to bring it up and down. That's right. That's it. And then take the bedding, we'll go back over. And that has given him, he's quite firmly supported and cushioned into the system. What we do find is that he's an escape artist in the morning. We'll come in and he's down at the bottom of the bed, maybe down, he's moved himself right down the bottom of the bed and he's sitting up down at the bottom of the bed. But what I do know is that he's getting a good sleep. He's getting a sleep in a position that is hopefully supporting and improving the scoliosis in his spine, slowly but surely, and at least not prevention of it getting any worse.
It's really important to take into account that Liam is the teacher or enabling the sharing information through the digital passport, because he has ownership of his passport and visibly shows how he wishes his care to be carried out. The digital passport is really flexible. It can be added to and be updated as his needs change, and allows Liam to clearly highlight his choices through displaying his likes and dislikes. I can add that it supplements his very clear non-verbal communication and visually shows Liam strong personality. It shows Liam, the young man first, who happens to have a disability.
So the digital passport is an awful lot more than that, though. It's how my niece's brother's girlfriend got to know my niece. My niece has a profound learning disability. Can you imagine being really nervous about meeting your boyfriend's family for the very first time, and that's his sister over there, and you don't speak her language? So to be able to prepare yourself for that beforehand and actually have a conversation and do something meaningful is absolutely wonderful. We use it to help people include other people in their decisions. It helps people to actually see the person first. It gives a more accurate, particularly whenever you're bringing in people like siblings and that sort of thing, and more accurate point of view on what somebody is really like. So sometimes you get one version of somebody, for example, somebody's musical taste. It can be you get the message about how they really like dad's musical taste or mum's musical taste, and then you speak to the sibling and you find out that actually they're really into Swedish death metal and they've got a bit of a crush on Billie Eilish. And so you get one story from one person, one story from the other. Really quite poignantly, we do a lot of support around legacy. So a lot of our parents are older and they know very well that they're not going to be around forever. And so a lot of our parents will build all the knowledge and experience that is in their head, all the cultural information that they have. Who was your granddad? Who was your gran? What part of Scotland do you come from, or Ireland, or England, or Wales, or wherever? What's your cultural legacy? What are your religious beliefs? What are the religious beliefs of your family? And they build that into the passport, because the group that PAMIS support don't get to carry that with them unless somebody makes that decision for them and then bothers to share that. So we're looking at a group of children, young people and older people who are digitally excluded and who don't have the things that we all use to maintain our relationships, like Facebook and WhatsApp and Discord and TikTok and that type of thing. People who have profound learning disabilities also need support to grieve. And we support people with the digital passport around that as well. So we can put family videos on there. We can put pictures of somebody's gran. One of our families, knowing that a family member had a terminal illness, recorded that family member telling stories and familiar stories and spending time with that person. And that goes with that person wherever they are now. And it's a memory for them and they can pass it on. So the digital passport is freely available from PAMIS. It doesn't cost anybody anything. And if you'd like to find out how to make one, that's available to you as well. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk about that today.
Thank you very much, everyone. And I would now like to just have a bit of time for a discussion. It was really good to hear about your different examples, and I think we can see a lot of parallels in the driving forces behind the About Me standard and Shane's Wiki and the PAMIS passport, and it all really highlights the importance of sharing what matters to people. And if I may refer to a previous quote of yours, Sam, when you were saying that some of the people working with Shane might not know what his condition is, but they'll know what he really likes doing and what makes him happy. And I think that's such a powerful point, and we really need to focus a bit more on this. And one of the questions I had is that we do talk a lot about empowerment, and we can see how these two examples are really empowering for the people receiving care and support. What else can empowerment look like in practice, and how can we really truly help people share their stories in a way that positively impacts the care that they receive? What needs to be built within the system, or what needs to change in the culture to enable this?
I think that empowerment is a complicated word. Probably the easier words are do as you would be done by, and it's about honesty and treating people well, conscious of the resources that some people may have and others may not. And therefore, as an organization, you have to be prepared to change your attitude. I think that co-designing, as Sam was talking about, with people is a great way forward. And I think trust in government is something, and in the health service is something that is really vital, especially after COVID, where trust has been very low. It's recovered. There's a chance to maybe do better. But if we're to do better, then it will involve just having to do things once, just having to gather things once, share things once. And organizations like PAMIS and the PRSB and Mydex, another one in Scotland, patient opinion that then became care opinion, they allow people to try and express their stories. The other safeguards that you might build in, well, they're about human realities and the institutions around them. So again, it's the values of trust and control and respect and sharing. And it's only by working together that we'll progress.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for that. Sam, would you have anything to add to this question?
Yeah, I think most people provide good care. And for me, what that is, it keeps you alive and safe. But what I'm interested in is improved care and support, where you're listened to, you're valued, you're understood, your goals and your health ambitions are taken into account, and support is offered to help you achieve them. Empowerment to me is where all this happens naturally, where shared decision-making, for example, becomes the norm, and all reasonable adjustments are made so that you can express and communicate your wishes, your views, and your feelings. You can never forget that communication is a fundamental human right. I'd just like to share something that happened to me when my son was 14, when we developed his wiki. We were having his annual review and new people were coming into his life. People I used to call the scary people from adult services. People who never knew Shane. And I knew they would get a list of diagnoses and difficulties and, they wouldn't get to learn about him as a person. And we created the wiki and we supported Shane to show his wiki. And he attended his annual review when he was 14 and he stayed for 20 minutes and he was able to show his wiki and he was engaged. What was different was the environment. Before, the environment wasn't inviting for Shane, so he wasn't interested. He would stay for 2 minutes and walk. But once we created an environment that he was comfortable with, he stayed. He shared his story. He was the focus of attention and nobody looked at the pieces of paper. So it's about us being honest about, are we doing everything that is possible, all the reasonable adjustments to give that individual that opportunity to communicate their wishes, views and feelings. And only when we can say yes, and they are included, then we can say, okay, we've ticked the empowerment box or the inclusion box.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Jenny, I will go to you next.
I think Sam has said a great deal that I would agree with as a family carer. Certainly, my own experiences has been that empowerment, both for my son and now for Liam, has been with the opening up of having being able to share information and them being in control of that information and being able to communicate what they want to say, what their wishes are. And this is definitely an age now where people with more complex needs are being able to be included more because the communication is opening up. And that is the biggest need that we have for these people, is that their communication is understood and that they can have the means to speak their wishes and their needs being met and what they want. So Sam, I think you put it over very, very well. I think what many of other family carers would express.
And last but not least, Kat?
I agree with everything everybody's been saying. I would only like to add, the example of what happens within the LGBTQI plus community, where I think everybody's noticed that we now show our pronouns to create a more comfortable and inclusive landscape where people don't need to feel singled out to explain themselves. I think that's so important. I think if we get a landscape that is inclusive in an ordinary and everyday way, rather than inclusive, rather than people having to spotlight themselves, just to be able to go out, not to have to use jargon, not to have to identify themselves as having care needs, just to be people, and to actually ensure that people know about them. People don't mean to leave folk out, but the people that we work with at PAMIS in particular, you don't get the privilege of working with them very often. They only show up in certain arenas, and if you don't know about the needs of people, how are you building them into creating services that are inclusive? How are you having those conversations if you have to start from the word go and actually describe first and foremost if people aren't necessarily visible in their day-to-day lives? So just to create that whole community where people realise that people who have a learning disability exist and should be able to navigate the world without having to present as having care needs and what their abilities are, and have those conversations. And you know, I think that's a hugely important aspect of our lives today.
And you've all brought up really important points, and from some other work that we did at the Alliance, asking people about their information and how they would like it to be shared, we saw that safeguards are really important, and in order for people to share their information, they need to know that it will be safe and respected and that they won't face any discrimination. That was particularly loud and clear in the ethnic minority and LGBTQI community. So I appreciate what you're saying, and that we actually need to build more inclusive culture and environment, like you said, Sam. Think about all aspects in which the communication is taking place, not just the format. Because we only have 5 minutes left. If you had a magic wand and you could make one thing happen to better enable people to share their stories in the next 12 months, what would it be?
Well, in Scotland, we have a council for economic transformation. We could perhaps have a council for empowering citizens and transformation, with a recognition of the role of human beings in the economy and a recognition of what carers give, often unpaid, and all those social and emotional and human aspects that are too often not at the table.
3 words: co-production, co-production, co-production. I think everything we do, we must include the people we are there to serve. You know, it is only by learning, listening, and valuing lived experience that we can make change happen. And people deserve the same level of recognition in decision making when we're deciding about new services, developing new products, how we share our stories. They deserve the same recognition as professional expertise.
I think what I would continue is with what Sam has said. If we achieve what she has said, we will see more of our people out there in the community than we do at the moment, because the community will be more welcoming. And as the community becomes more welcoming and the people are more comfortable to be out there in their community, then the communication will naturally come, and the ability to feel comfortable and be able to communicate and share the community much better and much more equality. But I think it comes from what Sam is saying. I think that will then extend itself into seeing people more comfortable in their community and being able to live in the community and communicate.
I would only add, learn the language. If you are audacious enough to approach somebody in order to undertake any form of interaction, you should at least have the courtesy to speak to somebody and understand what they are telling you. That's all.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm sure this will be very useful for our viewers, but I hope it's also been useful for yourselves to hear about what else is taking place. I'm really keen that we keep this dialogue open, that we continue to have conversations around what's working well in different areas of Scotland and the UK more generally, and that we can hopefully build on these foundations to make this the gold standard, that people are listened to and that they are respected and spoken to in their own language, as you say, and that services and standards and outcomes in general are co-produced with the people that they relate to. And also thank you very much to you, the people who are watching this webinar. The Alliance Live webinar series can be accessed on our YouTube channel, and the podcast can also be found on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Castbox. So just search for Alliance Live, or you can go to our website for direct links to any of these platforms. I would also like to say that if you have other examples of where personal stories were shared in order to improve care that you would like to highlight, or if you'd like to be part of one of these webinars yourself, or if you want to get in touch with any of the speakers that we had today, please do get in touch with us at the Alliance. You can contact the Digital Health and Care team at dhcscott@alliance-scotland.org.uk. We'll be very happy to hear from you, and we can also introduce you to our speakers if that's something you're interested in. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to sign up to the Alliance Live webinar, which showcases examples of innovative and integrated working taking place across Scotland within health and social care. And you can follow the Alliance on Twitter to find out how at Alliance Scott. So thank you very much once again for listening or for watching this webinar, and we look forward to hearing from you.